Hello, welcome again to Climate Connect Nigeria podcast. Here we talk about climate change and the intersection of climate change and what people are doing to address issues of climate change. And just like we told you the other time, we are on a series about COP29. And today we'll be dealing with climate change laws and damages and the unseen burden on women as we get towards COP29. What are those things and how do we address these issues? And so with me on today's edition of the podcast, I have Mrs. Sarah Jackson, the Executive Director of Against All Odds Foundation. So join me, let's get to hear what Ms. Sarah Jackson has to say as to the ways of curbing so many issues around climate change and gender as we head to COP29. All right, welcome to Climate Connect podcast, Ms. Sarah Jackson.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
So talk to us about what you do at Against All Odds Foundation.
Yeah, Against All Odds Foundation is a national NGO. We are based in Adamawa State, which is our headquarters. But we work through down to the Bay States, the Northeast, and also we spread across other states in the Federation. So basically what we do is a women-led organization.
Okay.
That is founded and led by women. And basically what we do, we respond to both humanitarian and development interventions that cut across health and nutrition, also cut across protection, gender-based violence, and food security and livelihood support. We also engage in climate action. Yeah.
All right. So how does climate-related disasters affect women in terms of livelihood, social status, and mental health?
It is disproportionate. Why? Because climate change itself, the effect of climate change is a threat, not just to women, to the environment and to the entire population. But when we talk about women, women's impact or effect is more. And so when it comes to the aspect of their health, climate change impacts them in a variety of ways. I would say if they are being displaced if people are displaced in a community, for example, women face more of the burden. Why? Because it affects their health. In most cases, it's discovered that during displacement, they actually go to an insecure location. So when they go to an insecure location, and sometimes they may not be able to have access to health services immediately, most especially if they are pregnant women among them, that really affects them. They will not be able to have access to health services. They will not be able to have access to some medicines, even though some of them, while fleeing or while relocating, for example, they tend to forget their medicines and it affects them, like some that use contraceptives and the rest, it used to affect their health. And also the experience, the devastating experience at that moment of that disaster normally have a ripple effect on their psychology. They also have psychological effects. Some of them have depression based on what they have experienced. Most of them also, because of the burden of what they bear in the family, that is why they will have depression. Some of them will go through traumatic experiences. Some of them are emotionally demoralized. So these are some of the health challenges. In terms of their livelihood, of course, when climate change occurs, we know that it affects majorly agricultural productivity. So, and like in this part of the world, for example, our women are majorly into agricultural production. So, and when there is any climate change happening or effects of climate change, it actually destroys their farmlands, and as a result, there will be no enough produce from the farm, and it will affect nutrition as well. And when it affects the nutrition, not just for the women, but also for the children. Yeah.
All right. So these are challenges.
Yes.
So now there is COP29, where countries go together to negotiate ways in which their countries are responding and what they need to also adapt to climate change and to also mitigate climate change. Now, looking at all this myriad of challenges that women face in climate-related disasters,
Yeah.
what are those ways? How can women adapt to? I mean, what are the challenges women face in adapting to those challenges, and how can COP29 address these issues?
One of the basic challenge I would say is their vulnerability. At any point in time, women are always vulnerable, and their vulnerability always spans up from either the society places them in a level of vulnerability, and also where they find themselves. For example, when you look at the aspect of social norms in some societies, like in the northern parts of Nigeria, there are some restrictions that has to do with women. Women don't participate in some activities. They don't also participate in some decision making. So they don't even participate they don't even have opportunities for representation. They don't have opportunities for participation or belonging to a group or committees like that. So when women are faced with this kind of vulnerabilities, in most cases also they lack access to some resources. You discover that in some cultures, they say women do not own lands. So if they don't own lands, even when they are farming, they farm on their husband's lands. And some of them, they borrow lands to farm, or they hire lands to farm.
Okay.
Yes, they don't own farms. They have limited access to resources actually. That is already a state of vulnerability for them. And as a result, it places them on the place of exploitation, abuse, and what have you. Even when they come to seek aid, when there is any humanitarian assistance, for example, when they go to seek for aid, you discover that in most cases they are being exploited. Yes.